Sphera.
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 This is Hypertourismos, a podcast by Maël Gelou for the Sphera project. Available on EuroPod, the European podcast platform. Episode 4, Typical Greekness. I have lived in Greece for a few years, and I'm used to discreetly existing among the locals, witnessing them going about their daily lives. But in Santorini, I often have this sensation that something is off. Like Jim Carrey in The Truman Show, I feel surrounded by this kind of decor made especially for me. As if the authenticity was staged, as if the hospitality was performed.
Look, freedom or death. Greek Hellas Revolution.
You're dressed for the revolution.
Yes. Freedom or death. All Greece. Ευζών.
My friend Thanos, who organizes walking tours on the island, told me that many tourists also have this same sensation in the most famous areas of Santorini.
The most of our clients during the summer lives in 5-star hotels in Sphera, Imerovigli, Ia, places who look fabulous, and with a great view, the whole blue horizon and all these things. But as soon we walk together and we explore the villages of the island, and they understood that all that is fake. I mean, it's not real. It's made just for them. The whole Caldera side is a new thing. And at the Caldera side, all those places that I mentioned before, all those villages, used to be real villages. I mean, people live there. You go to their houses. Now, not anymore. So the people understood that, that lives like in a way of Disneyland. It's not something real.
A room on the Caldera can cost thousands of euros. I can imagine the disappointment of some when they discover that the supposedly typical Greek village they are staying in, with its charming cliffside sea view, is in fact a giant tourist dormitory. But the marketing of the tourist industry in Santorini doesn't promise an authentic experience of local life. Rather, it mainly relies on the view of the sea and the white architecture. Lefteris, who we met in the first episodes, is passionate about the culture and history of Santorini. He explained to me that houses were not always white on the island.
It's hard to kind of escape from the superficial kind of side of the picture-perfect postcard kind of side of Santorini, with the completely whitewashed buildings, which actually didn't really exist here up until, there were always white houses, as some of them, but it wasn't necessarily the predominant color in the structure. So if you go to some of the older side of the buildings, and speaking of change, for example, that we were speaking about, that, for example, is a huge change. So people, in their mind, they want to come and see white structures with blue domes. Whether that blue dome is a church or not doesn't really matter. And that has actually affected the architecture of the island. Specific architectural features, and the most predominant one being the color of the buildings, has passed on and has become almost, not just in Santorini but other places as well, that this is the norm and this is what people have to do in order for it to be right. And this is a very strange thing to have, especially when you can see historically, archaeologically, architecturally, that this was not the case.
In the 60s, the Greek dictatorship passed a law mandating all houses on the island to be painted white. This had a huge impact on the development of tourism. Nowadays, tourism has a huge impact on new architecture, So even if it's no longer obligatory, new houses follow the white and blue expectations. Before, houses on Santorini were left unpainted or colored in earthy reds and yellows with natural materials. Today, if you search well, you can still find few houses like that in Santorini. But the island also hosts Venetian castles and neoclassical buildings, far from Santorini's Instagram stereotype.
A lot of people know about the kind of modern notion of the whitewashed buildings and the architecture and the hotels and the swimming pools. And maybe some of them have heard of some of the wine or, definitely the caldera and the cruise ships. But there is so much more than that. They are all crowding in the same place to see the sunset in Ia, which is kind of the most famous sunset location of the island. But also, what are they seeing apart from the view? Like, you have to be able to offer visitors more than just a beautiful view. I think Santorini is a lot more than that, and it should kind of have that approach. So it needs to be able to offer that to the the hundreds of thousands, millions of visitors every year, need to be able to see that aspect of it.
As the identity of Santorini gets more and more tied up in her dreamy paradise narrative, Lefteris believes it's fundamental to change this narrative, to make visitors discover the rich culture of Santorini.
So we have all these very important small private museums, the public museums, the archaeological sites, the aspects of the landscape, the architectural buildings, the settlements. There's just so much to do and see on the island. If you stay here for a month, you can do something different every day.
Lefteris is also on the board of the Maritime Museum, located in Ia, the most visited village in Santorini. After several months living here, I was embarrassed to say that I had never heard of this museum. Apparently, I was not the only one.
You have 5 to 10 people that visit the museum a day, and it's an official museum with extremely rare objects and a very important aspect of of Santorini. Basically, you have hundreds of thousands of people passing by in the one street over from the museum, and then in the actual museum you have 5 to 10 people a day. I just think it should be something that should change, because I do think it's not just a matter that people don't want to see it. I think it's like, if you tell people about it, if you inform them, then they will go, but you also need to offer them something that's worth them seeing.
The challenge is to reconnect the visitors with the true richness of the island, to learn about its culture, its past, its traditions, its art and crafts, its essence. Yanis has found a way to do it. With his wife Argy, they created the Symposium Cultural Center, inviting travelers to discover Santorini's culture. There, Yanis plays and composes music, shares his knowledge of history and mythology, and constructs ancient Greek instruments.
I'm making a reed.
I found him in his workshop. It was dark, there were lots of tools, old books, and the flames of tall candles were lighting old wine barrels around us.
That's the most difficult instrument. So, you see this? I take it and I clean it from inside, and then I create this blade. Santorini, she's one of the places of Greece that she has a lot of culture, a lot of historical background that starts from Neolithic time period. It is the first place in the world that we have the oldest depiction of a human-like god, a god that looks like a human. It is a place that actually humans became gods. Many people have this idea that Santorini is a touristic place and the only thing you see are tourists, and where are the locals, where is the local food, where is the culture? Is there. You have to find it. It has many layers to discover. For me, this island, in comparison to other places I visited in the world, every meter has a soul. Every meter.
While I see locals coexisting with tourism, I understand it's a matter of trying to reach the balance between keeping traditional culture and a sense of community alive, and then sharing it with international visitors.
I went and I was living in an island called Naxos. I stayed with a shepherd for 3 months, and he taught me some. And then I went to different islands and I received different techniques.
This cultural center is not called Symposium for nothing. Very different people gather around the same table, locals and visitors. I spent some of the best nights of the summer here, getting drunk with music.
It's nice when you are, when I play traditional music instruments and they are locals, the feeling is nice because they are attracted to this tradition more than a visitor. It's also better when they are visitors and locals together, then it's great. Music has this ability. That's her purpose, to bring the community together. It's a social movement. A visitor wants to be with the locals because the locals know how to react. The locals have their own code, and when you are around the locals, they are sharing this secret social code with you. You are a part of them. Then you feel that you deserve it to be around them.
I understood that people we call locals here are most of the time not originally from the island. They are from other parts of Greece or from abroad. I asked him if I already deserved my title of local after these few months here.
What makes you a local? It's when you are so long in a specific place that you received so much breeze and so much dust and so much sun from that place that is a part of you. I'm here 16 years. I received a lot of dust and a lot of sun to claim myself that I'm a local. I am a local.
Thanos, who came here 6 years ago, told me people usually start feeling local after spending a whole winter on the island. After the craziness of the summer, it's only in winter that he finds time and energy to reconnect with his friends.
There's no time during the summer for people to gather and enjoy little moments of really communication. And this is for me very, very big challenge, because in a relationship, friendship, relationship, in every kind of relationship, you need time. And time is something that's luxury in Santorini. Because of so much work, it's very easy to lose the control and to not have time for yourself.
It can be difficult for people to build meaningful connections, as the difficult touristic season gets longer and longer, now going from March until November. But the island gets mostly empty in the winter. So how do we protect or even bring back the feeling of community in Santorini?
The disadvantage, at my point of view, is the damage that happened to the social fabric. You know, you don't have the same feeling of a neighbor anymore because your neighbor all the time change. I mean, the social fabric for me is the most important in a place. A place without social fabric it's a place without soul. And this is the big thing to save in Santorini, the soul, you know. The soul of the people who used to live here 6,000 years now.
In this episode, we have found some clues on how to save the soul of Santorini and the soul of its people, whether it is by reconnecting locals and tourists with Santorini's culture, by showing that, apart from the sunset, the island can invest in museums, in authentic experiences for its visitors, or even by putting effort to create a new feeling of belonging here for the locals. We see that some people are already trying to restore the natural and cultural heritage of Santorini, but I wonder if more structural steps are taken. In the next episode, we talk about responsibility. Who should act to save Santorini? What are politicians doing? Who even cares?